Hola estudiantes, ¿cómo están? Espero que todo están bien. Hi students, how are you doing? I hope everybody is still doing great. And bienvenido a nuestra clase. Welcome to Spanish class. Vamos a comenzar. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias, muy bien, gracias. ¿Y cómo te vas? ¿Cómo te vas? Hola estudiantes. Alright, so in our last lesson, well, in our past few lessons, we have been looking at la hora, which means the time. We've been telling the time in Spanish. We have learned how to say what time it is on the dot, en punto, on the dot. For example, 9 o'clock would be son las 9. 10 o'clock would be son las 10. And we also have 12 o'clock, which would be son las 12. And 1 o'clock would be es la una. We established that once we are talking about the hour 1, it's going to be es la una. But for all the other numbers, because they're greater than 1, we're going to say son las followed by the hour. So we would say es la una, it is 1 o'clock. Son las dos, it is 2 o'clock. Son las tres, it is 3 o'clock. Son las 10, it is 10 o'clock. Son las 12, it is 12 o'clock. Now vamos a comenzar un poquito. We're going to sing just a little bit. Dime reloj, ¿qué hora es? Tic toc, tic toc. Es la una, ding. Dime reloj, ¿qué hora es? Tic toc, tic toc. Son las 4, ding dong, ding dong. Dime reloj, ¿qué hora es? Tic toc, tic toc. Son las 8. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Dime reloj, ¿qué hora es? Tic toc, tic toc. Son las 12. Let's go. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Bueno. So that is how we would say the hour on the dot, okay? Remember, the short hand is the hour hand and the long hand is the minute hand. Now we then looked at how to say how many minutes past the hour, which means that the long hand now is moving faster than the short hand and is pointing to different numbers or in between different numbers on the clock. Now wherever the long hand points to, it tells you how many minutes have passed out of that hour. Now what we have learned also is that if we're going to do it this way, we can increase by 5 as we go around the clock. Now each of these numbers represent 5 because in between each number is 4 different strokes. So it's 12, then you have 1 minute past 12, which would be the first stroke, 2 minutes past the hour, the second stroke, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, etc. And then 5 would fall on the 1. Then now 6 would be the next stroke, 7, 8, 9, and 10 would fall on the 2. So we would increase by 5. So it's 5 minutes past the hour when the long hand is at 1, 10 minutes past the hour when the long hand is on 2, 15 minutes past the hour when the long hand is on 3, 20 minutes past the hour if the long hand is on 4, 25 minutes past the hour if the long hand is on 5, 30 minutes or half an hour past the hour if the long hand is on 6, 35 if it's on 7, 40 if it's on 8, 45 if it's at 9, 50 if it's at 10, 55 if it's at 11. And remember, there are 4 strokes in between each of them, so you get 44, 23, 16, 11, numbers like those, okay? So what we also learned is that now when we're saying that there are a few minutes past the hour, we can start by saying this. We use 8. So if I want to say it is 5 minutes past 12, I'm going to say son las 12 y 5. Son las 12 y 5. It is 5 minutes past 12. If I want to say it is 20 minutes past 12, son las 12 y 20. It is 20 minutes past 12. Now we also learned that there's another way to say 15 minutes past the hour. We can say either 15 minutes past the hour or we can say quarter past the hour. If you cut the clock into 4, you get 4 equal quarters. So it's a half past, quarter past. So quarter past the hour, if the long hand is over here, and you're saying to the next hour, it's going to be quarter to the next hour. Okay, so if I want to say 12:15, or 12:15 is going to be son las 12:15, or quarter past 12, son las 12:15. Now if I want to say 30 minutes past 12, it's going to be son las 12:30, or half past 12, which is the same thing, is going to be son las 12:30. Now, if the long hand is over here and we're still saying how many minutes past the hour, it's going to follow the same pattern. Son las 12:35, or son las 12:50, because after we go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, this becomes 50. Good? So that's past the hour. Now, last class, we were looking at how many minutes there are before getting to the next hour. So we were focusing on the long hand being over this side of the clock, over here. So we said once the long hand is on this side of the clock, between 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, it is telling you how many minutes before you get to the next hour. It can also tell you how many minutes past the hour, but if you want to specify and say how many minutes before the next hour, the long hand should be on this side of the clock, okay? And you're going to be saying it a bit different from how you did past the hour. This time around, we're using menos. Menos also means to subtract. And if we remember, it also means to add. So we're saying how many minutes to the next hour. Remember, we also said that when we're saying how many minutes to the next hour, we have to first figure out what hour is coming up next. So the shorthand is going to be in between two numbers. For example, right now it's in between 12 and 1. So the shorthand already passed 12. We're going in a clockwise rotation this way. So the shorthand is between 12 and 1, which means the hour 12 has already gone, but it's coming up to 1. It's almost 1 o'clock. So the long hand over here now tells you how many minutes are left before you get to 1. In order for you to figure that out, now remember, we're counting anti-clockwise. So it's going to be 11 is now going to represent 5. If you look on that first activity sheet you got, you'll see that information. 11 represents 5. 10 represents 10 minutes. 9 represents 15 minutes. 8 represents 20 minutes. 7 represents 25 minutes. And remember, there are little strokes or little dots in between that give you numbers like 11, 17, 16, 4, etc. So the long hand is on 10. The short hand is in between 12 and 1. So we know that it is some minutes to 1. So if it has to do with the hour 1, we start by saying es la una. So it's going to be es la una. And since the long hand is on 10, it's going to be menos 10. Es la una menos 10. But what if the long hand was already past 1 and going on to, the short hand was already past 1 going on to 2, and the long hand was at 8. So we would already cancel out the fact that 1 o'clock is gone, but it's coming up to 2 o'clock. So since the long hand is over here, this reminds us that yes, it is to the next hour. Good? So if we count anti-clockwise again, 5, 10, 15, 20, we can say that 20 minutes are left before we get to 2 o'clock. So 20 in Spanish is 20. So since we're talking about 2 o'clock now, it's going to be son las dos, and then remember we use menos followed by the amount of minutes to the next hour, which is 20. Your answer would read son las dos menos 20. And let's do another one. If my long hand is between 3 and 4, and my short hand is in between 3 and 4, and my long hand is on 7, we can already tell that there are minutes. It's now saying minutes to the next hour because the long hand is on this side, which is past the 6 and coming up on this end over here. So over here, it's slightly past 3 and going on to 4. So we know what hour is coming up next. 4. So we start our answer by saying son las 4. Then we add menos. Over here now, we're going to add the amount of minutes left before the next hour, which is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And 25 in Spanish is 25. So our answer should read son las 4 menos 25. 25 minutes are left before you get to 4 o'clock. It is 25 minutes to 4. Now remember, we also said that you can tell the time digitally. For example, if you see 12:55, it can mean 12:55, or it can also mean 5 minutes to the next hour, which is 1 o'clock. Another thing I told you was that once the amount of minutes here is greater than 30, it is telling you how many minutes to the next hour. So it can tell you how many minutes past this hour right here, but it's also telling you how many minutes are left before you get to the next hour. But what you have to do is you have to subtract the amount of minutes that you have here from 60. 60 minutes make an hour. So we subtracted 55 from 60, which left us with 5. So we know that the hour coming up next is 1. So we would say es la una. Then we have our menos, and the amount of minutes left before we get to 1 is 5. So our answer would be es la una menos cinco. See? And you should have that example in your books as well. Another one is 6:45. 6:45. Now 6:45 in Spanish, you if you just want to say 6:45, son las 6:45. But if I want to say how many minutes now before the next hour, seeing that this is greater than 30, we can say it that way. So we know that there are some minutes left before you get to the next hour, which is 7. So what we do is the same procedure. What's coming up next after 6? 7. So we say son las 7 menos. Are we going to put back the 45, which is 45? No. We only use 45 if we're saying how many minutes past the hour. But if we're saying how many minutes to the hour coming up next now, which is 7, we're going to have to subtract 45 from 60, which is done right here. So 45 from 60 leaves us with 15. So we know that there are 15 minutes left before you get to the next hour, which is 7. 15 in Spanish is 15. So we would say son las 7 menos 15. And remember, we said that if the long hand is on 9, which would actually represent 45, let me put the correct time. So 6:45 looks like this on the clock. 6:45. Good. Oops, let me put it down a little bit more. Hold on. 6:45 looks like this on the clock. Good. So it is telling us that it's already past 6. It's going up to 7. So we start with son las 7 menos 15 because it's 5, 10, 15 minutes left before you get to 7 o'clock. And you can also say son las 7 menos cuarto. It is quarter to 7. Quarter to 7. Son las 7 y cuarto. Good. Now for today, I will also like to remind you that if I want to say in the morning or AM, I would say de la mañana. De la mañana. So if I want to say 5 a.m., it is 5 a.m., I would say son las 5 de la mañana. If I want to say it is 2 a.m., son las 2 de la mañana. It is 10 a.m., son las 10 de la mañana. Okay? Or if it is 3:30 a.m., son las 3:30 de la mañana. So de la mañana means a.m. or in the morning. If I want to say in the afternoon or in the evening, it's going to be de la tarde. It's going to be de la tarde. So 3 p.m. son las 3 de la tarde. 4 p.m. son las 4 de la tarde. 4:10 p.m. or 10 minutes past 4 in the evening, son las 4:10 de la tarde. Comprende? Or if I want to say it is 5:45 in the evening, son las 5:45 de la tarde. Okay? But what if I want to say in the night? I would say, for example, son las 8 de la noche. It is 8 o'clock in the night, or it is 8 p.m. If I want to say it is 9 p.m., son las 9 de la noche. 11 p.m., son las 11 de la noche. 11:30 p.m., son las 11:30 de la tarde. 8:15 p.m., son las 8:15 de la noche, or son las 8:15 de la noche. Okay? Now, What I also want to introduce you to are two other terms. They are mediodía and medianoche. Who can guess what mediodía means? Very, very simple. Mediodía. Día. Día means day, noche means night. Mediodía means midday, while medianoche means midnight. So if you want to specify and say 12 o'clock midnight, you would say son las 12 medianoche. Or you can say, if it's midday, son las 12 mediodía. So mediodía, midday, while medianoche is midnight. Mediodía, midday, medianoche, midnight. So what you'll do for me today is some other practice activities to help you to practice telling the time in Spanish. So let's see, for your first activity here, what you'll do for me is you're going to be writing the times in Spanish based on the analog clocks that you see. So you'll be seeing some clocks like this, and the hands are going to be pointing to some numbers. You're going to write what times these clocks are saying in Spanish in the spaces provided, all right? So that's for the first activity. But for the second activity, what you'll do is there's the first part you are supposed to be, all right, so you're given some times. For example, 11:50, 12 o'clock, 11:12, 8 o'clock, 1:30. And then now in Spanish, those are on the either sides. And in the middle, you have your activity sheet, so you can look at it. In the middle, you'll have some times written in Spanish. You have to draw a line to match the times in Spanish to the correct boxes that are showing you the numbers with those times. For example, you would see 12:50 and 11:50, and you see the well, let's use another one. We see 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock, and the options you are given are son las 10, son las 8, es la una. Which one of those would give you an answer for one of those options there? Son las 8 is the same as 8 o'clock. So you draw a line from 8 o'clock to son las 8, and then you will find the other answers for the other options that are there. So on your activity sheet, you can look at that to figure out what answer would match for what question on the paper. And then at the bottom, you are given some analog clocks again, but these clocks don't have any hands in them. However, you are given the time in Spanish, so the time is already written there for you in Spanish, but this time around you have to put the hands in the right places. So you have to remember now your minute hand different from your hour hand. The hour hand is the shorter one, and the minute hand is the longer hand. Okay, the hour hand should tell you what hour it is or what hour is coming up next. The long hand tells you how many minutes past the hour or how many minutes to the next hour. So please don't mix them up. And when you're drawing the hands to show the time, please ensure that one hand is actually shorter than the other. Don't let them be on the same height, because if they're on the same height, then I really don't know what the clock would be saying, because you're using 2 minute hands or 2 hour hands. That wouldn't make much sense. So ensure that when you're drawing your clocks, you have your minute hand longer than your hour hand. See, my minute hand is right here, my hour hand is down here. If I put them closer together, you'll see. So the minute hand is longer than the hour hand. Okay, everybody? So go ahead and complete your activities. You'll be provided with the answers for these activities soon, so you can check your answers. All right, so for now, adios, 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 adios. Adios, 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 adios means goodbye, students. Adios.